Hey guys, welcome to another review. Today I'm going to be reviewing the newest episode of The Walking Dead, Season 7, Episode 1, The Day Will Come When You Won't Be. So, the title is a callback to Season 1 of The Walking Dead, where Dr. Jenner said that to Rick right before, they had to go on a run outside of the building as it exploded. Now that I think of it, that first season was a lot farther from reality than this current season. It just seems like everything since then has been far from fiction. That there just seemed like some sort of, I don't know, it felt like a sci-fi movie ending. It just did not seem right. It was out of place. Just a little thought there. But anyway, we're talking about this new season and this new episode, which I did like quite a bit. I'm just going to say right out, I give it 8 out of 10. It was really dang good. There were some small complaints, and just basically that this episode has no fun in it, but you can't expect there to be fun. So basically, the only reason it's not getting out a 10 out of 10 is because it does exactly what it should be doing. I just did not enjoy watching it so much as just was interested while watching it, which, is the main idea. They will be engaged and interested, and they really did pay off there. So let's talk about the good and bad. Starting out, the good stuff, I feel like the deaths were handled very well. And yes, deaths, in case you haven't seen this episode yet, spoiler, because there's more than one death in this episode. It caught me off guard, and that was well done. Okay. Another thing is just they sort of tortured us throughout this episode, just with little parts, like Rick chopping off Carl's hand, or going to chop off Carl's hand. That was a torturous moment. Having Negan toss around Rick the whole time, that was torturous. The fact that they waited like 15 minutes in to show us what happened to the person who got killed, or who was killed, that's basically what we wanted to know. That was torture. That they just really liked to torture us, and I think that was a good thing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed sitting there writhing in my seat like, why? What? Because you know what? A good show is able to do that to you. If it's a bad show, then you're like, oh, I don't care about these characters. Why are they doing this? This is just boring. Like Fear the Walking Dead. But in The Walking Dead, we have this show. They completely torture us, and we like it. Sort of some sort of bondage thing. I don't know. But maybe it's like we're in love with our captors now, and that's just how we're going to have to live for the rest of our lives, because it's been done very well, and I do like that. Okay. Other good things are the acting. The acting was great in this episode. Everyone was so torn up, and I felt like they genuinely just saw something horrific happening in front of them, and the characters, like the ones that were more attached to the characters that died, they seemed to be more affected by it than the people who weren't. And that was well done as well. Like Aaron, he was sad, but he didn't really seem to care as much as like Sasha, who lost her boyfriend, or what's that other girl? Rosita, who saw her boyfriend die, ex-boyfriend. And then Maggie seeing Glenn die, and Rick seeing Glenn die. They were very close to him, so they were just completely torn up by that. But then other characters that didn't interact with Glenn or Abraham so well, that they didn't react as much. Okay, so anyway, other good things, I think the suspense was good. Just right down the line, any suspenseful moment in this was good. There was not one suspenseful moment where it was just they shouldn't be building up suspense for this. It was done well. Okay. And then the zombie scene, I loved that zombie scene where Rick's running around all the walkers. That was well done as well. So that's the good stuff. The bad stuff is just, So I don't think there was quite enough gore when they were showing the death of Abraham. That's my first complaint there. I just feel like there could have been a lot more. I wanted to at least see him with a bit of a crushed-in skull. Instead, we see him with a little blood down his head, and then his head completely destroyed. We don't really get that in-between shot where it's almost crushed completely, but not. Which we did see with Glenn, and that's what I liked about the gore with Glenn, but with Abraham, not so much. I guess they probably had some sort of a problem with the ratings, so we'd have to make you TVMA or something. Well, actually, I think they are that. We'd have to make you rated X, I don't know. I would like to have seen more gore, but they probably wouldn't allow it, so not their fault really. So what else? Uh, it was that we had to sit through that eeny, meeny, miny, mo scene again. I just feel like that was completely a waste of our time, having to have eeny, meeny. Maybe that was the suspenseful part that we've just cut out. That was just, yeah, wow, eeny, meeny, miny. We've seen this before. I've seen it so many times. People investigating this scene, you watch their video and they're showing that scene over and over again. They had an uncensored version where you can hear Negan swearing in swear words that he didn't use in this episode. So I've seen it so many times, that was a problem for me, having to sit through it one more time. But I suppose it may have fit in the episode, so I'm not going to hit them too bad for that. That's just the two little things I had trouble with. Maybe that Rick was so torn up, it made me feel bad to see Rick so destroyed, but I can't complain about that because it's realistic. He saw two people that he really knew completely destroyed in front of him, and then he's getting tossed around by this dude and there's nothing he can do. I would go to pieces myself. Okay, so that's the good and the bad. Let's talk about the episode itself now. So it starts out, we see Rick in front of Negan. He tells him that he's going to kill him. And that, of course, pisses Negan off, so Negan picks him up and drags him like a little biatch. It's kind of funny. He's like, oh, and I kind of wish that Rick was able to stand up, but he's just like, he doesn't have his legs. He's so shocked, so he's just getting dragged around. And when people mentioned that when we saw this clip previously, it looks like Negan's going to like take him into the truck and rape him or something. It just looks really weird. That did kind of creep me out a bit, but I didn't actually at any point think that they would get, sexual. So, you can pass there. Okay. Then he sits in that car with Rick and just torments him the whole time. He shoves Rick's hatchet into the table and he's like, your best chance is if you get that hatchet and try and kill me now. So Rick's waiting for it, goes for it, gets it nearly, almost, but then a gun that Negan has just swoops up right in between them and no good. And then freaking Negan hits him in the stomach and sends him on the floor. It just really pissed me off to see that, but I knew that it's needed for the episode, so I'm going to say that's good and well done. Okay, so after constant torment of Negan to Rick, we then see Negan stops the car and has Rick go fetch the, what do they call it? Axe. He calls it the axe. And what was weird is, I thought that he just like threw it outside of the door. The hatchet, I'm going to call it. But instead it's like he threw it up and onto the roof, which I didn't really see. It just seemed to me like he was tossing it outward, but whatever. Okay, so Rick goes out there, he fights all these walkers. That was what was fun to see. I think Rick had a little more trouble than he should have fighting them. I mean, usually he's able to just toss them around a bit easier, but it adds more tension to have him struggle a bit at least. He gets on the roof and then he starts flashbacking, and we see some really raunchy stuff in this flashback. That's when we see what happened with Glenn and Abraham. So you go through the whole eeny, meeny, miny, mo thing, and he chooses Abraham. And that was just like, I didn't feel so bad because I don't like Michael Cudlitz, the actor who plays Abraham. That's a personal thing. I've had a bad experience with him. But the character himself, I didn't really like too much, so when he chose him, I was like, oh yeah, thank goodness. I waited 6 months for this. I feel a little bit disappointed, but at the same time relieved. That wasn't a character that I liked. And then we see him get bashed in the head and all. But one thing I should point out is, if you notice, Abraham had his hand to his side, and then he kind of does this, the peace sign, sort of. That's what he does to Sasha. He was actually giving her the peace sign, and then it shows her face. A lot of people didn't pick up on that because it's like blink and you miss it, but I wanted to make sure you guys knew about that. Go ahead and check it out again. I know you want to. Just look real closely. His fingers make the peace sign. It shows her face, and she's like, oh, and that's very well done. If you notice that, then you're Hawkeye and you deserve a point. That's 1 point for you. Okay. And then it was a bit emotional to see Abraham die, but at the same time I didn't feel too bad. But then he's taunting everyone, and you just feel so pissed off at Negan. But if I were there, I would not do anything. The best thing to do in that situation is just take your punishment, because really, they are surrounded by people with guns, and this guy, Negan, clearly has some organization. He's not just going to let you do whatever you want and escape. He's got it down to a T. So, freaking Daryl, biggest idiot in the show right now, who actually, in this episode, he looked a lot lardier than usual. Did anyone notice that? He just looked like a sort of a blob, an amorphous blob. And this simpering wimp jumps up and punches Negan. I'm really pissed off at Daryl right now. I'm sure it'll pass, but right now, Daryl is... I kind of hate him more than Negan, just because Negan, for his sake, is doing the thing that he thinks is right. He's a psychopath, he's a sociopath, but he's doing what he thinks is right. And Daryl is just a dumbass. So, that's right, I swore. I'm sorry. Shh, don't tell anyone. Okay, so then, of course, Negan says he has to keep his promise, but technically what he said previously was that he would cut out the boy's eye and feed it to his father. So I was like, is he going to do that? But then as soon as he moves over and you see Glenn's the only person that you can see in the background really, very clearly, I was like, oh, they're going to kill Glenn. And it just kind of took me off guard. He's going to kill 2 characters? That's not like in the comics and not expected at all. And he did it. That was so cool. Also, might as well point that Abraham did take it like a man. It was pretty cool. Kind of made me like Abraham's character more to see him stand up there and he says, suck my nuts. That was totally an Abraham moment, filled with class. Well done. Well done. But then for Glenn, it's a lot more sad and a lot less funny. I was laughing for Abraham's death. I'm gonna be honest. I'm a sicko. I was laughing. But then once it got to Negan killing Glenn, then everything changed. It was like bash, oh, bash, and then he stops and he's doing like he did in the comics. He's leaning over and talking to Glenn as he's calling out to Maggie with his head collapsed and eye popped out. Great effects, by the way. The makeup effects on that was just spot on, perfect. It's like I imagined it would be back when I saw season 1. I was like, well, back when I started watching the show and knew about Glenn's death, I was like, that's what I want to see. I want to see it like this. And that's what we got. I think they did very well with Glenn's death. Abraham's death, not quite as well. And when Glenn then says, Maggie, I'll find you. And he's just not there at all. That was sad. I didn't cry at all in this episode because I just can't cry during movies or TV shows. I don't know what's wrong with me. But everyone else was very emotional. Entire family. And I know many people who were bawling throughout, the entire episode. And my brother was so upset he just got up and stomped out of the room. He didn't even see the rest of the episode. He just, nope. And he's a huge fan of The Walking Dead, so that really did hurt people. It was amazing. A very, very emotional scene. Okay. So then, basically what we see is, after Glenn's death, Negan walks around, taunts them some more. We see it goes back to Rick from his flashback, where I'd point out that was all in kind of a first person for the first part. I like that. It was what Rick's seeing, and that was well done as well. Okay, so back to him on the roof. Negan's like, that's it, time's up, and he starts shooting up at the roof, and Rick has to run to keep from getting shot. I'm guessing that Negan would be okay if he just shot Rick right there, but he was giving him a chance, slowly catching up to him. Rick jumps onto a corpse that's hanging. That's that guy from the, I don't know if you remember, in the finale, which was 6 months ago, they hung one of their guys, or hanged one of their guys, and that was the guy that we see here. Now Rick's hanging from his body and his neck is ripping down. That was very suspenseful. I was completely interested, but then I feel like it kind of got ruined by Negan shooting all the walkers around Rick. I would like to have seen Rick have to drop down and fight his way through the walkers, which we have seen Rick do before. He's gone through crowds and stuff. It's nothing new for him, but I guess they want to kind of cut down the episodes so that they don't end up making it a 2-hour or 1-hour long episode, which I would have loved, by the way, if we had an extra long episode. Okay. And then what we see after that. Then back into the freaking RV where Rick has the freaking machete back and he gives it to Negan. Negan then torments him some more as they drive back. Negan stops the car and he cleans off the axe, which immediately, as you're seeing it, they start showing Rick's hand and that axe is near Rick's hand and you're just like, come on, you know you're going to do it. You're going to do it. That's what was making it suspenseful right there. I was like, Rick's going to lose his hand. This is going to happen. I was not expecting him to actually be threatening to have Rick chop off Carl's hand. That was like a complete twist. And then I figured out as soon as Negan says, "Are you a southpaw?" to what's his name, Carl, I was like, that's definitely what he's going to do. He's going to have Rick chop off his son's hand. And once it was doing it, I was like, that's not going to happen. He's going to stop him. Because Ulray, the poor actor, has to wear a patch on his eye. They're not going to have him wearing this big stump prosthetic or something. But it was a very suspenseful scene. You have Rick falling apart in it. I'm not going to complain about that at all. It was very well done, very emotional. Andrew Lincoln, great actor. That snot bubble, though, was just like, oh, no, I wonder if that was real or if that was, like, added in with CGI afterwards. Kind of, I don't know, maybe it was. It looked faked, but at the same time, it could have been real. Okay, so, after that, we basically see Negan talked about why, before he has Rick he gives Rick the machete and says that he has to chop Carl's hand off. Before that, he talks about the look on Rick's eyes. Rick does sort of have these eyes that are like pissed off at the same time as scared or sad, and he's just glaring at Negan, and that's what Negan didn't like. He had a little shred of dignity left in him, and Negan just knew how to take every little ounce of anything that Rick had and just shatter it, to make him feel completely helpless and useless. It was very sad to see, very upsetting, and again, very well done. I did like that. Then afterwards, after he stops Rick from chopping off his son's hand, which he was going to make him do, he then decides to take Daryl. So Daryl's with him now, which is making me think maybe Daryl is going to take over as Dwight. Would that be cool? I would like that. Because this Dwight, I don't feel like he's as likable or as cool as Daryl is, which, right now I'm pissed at Daryl, but Daryl's still a cool character. So that would just be cool is all I'm saying. And then he just leaves them there all by themselves, gives them an extra truck because he wants them to bring him more stuff, and takes off. Now we're just left with them, and poor Maggie just lost her husband, and his freaking corpse is right there. She's all blubbery. She looks sick, and she's just saying that she wants to go to war, which is similar in the comics, except for Maggie actually, punches Rick full on in the face in the comics. She doesn't do that in this, though. I think it would have been cool if she did. It would just be cool. Because she's all delirious and stuff. No one would blame her, and it would just be a little addition. But I guess here they just wanted to make you feel sad for Maggie instead of just pissed off at Maggie. Which would piss me off if she did it. Okay, so then you just see they pack up their stuff, take the corpses, I believe, into the RV, and they take off. And the last thing you see is just Rick's eyes as he's staring out, his piercing blue eyes, and then it's over. So, there are a few things I want to talk about here, though. What happened with Maggie? Maggie was obviously poisoned in some way, something that people kind of have glossed over. Everyone's speculating over who died. What happened to Maggie? I mean, obviously Negan wouldn't have just had his men set up for months in this position at the ready to grab anyone who comes out of Alexandria, right? So what I'm thinking is someone inside of the community poisoned Maggie so that they would have to take her out. So that they would have to head to Hilltop, which would tell Negan just where they would be. So, who poisoned Maggie? That's what I'm going to say. What do you guys think? Who do you guys think did it? Or do you think my theory is crazy and Maggie was just going through some sort of pregnancy sickness or something? I don't know. Tell me what you guys think about that. So, maybe she was miscarrying. Just saying. Okay, so, I will have my Saturday Answers video back this Saturday, so post some questions in the comments below, and I will answer you guys. And anyway, make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. I will see you guys in the next review. Peace.